So hi, welcome to the Dr. Paul Show. I have the special pleasure of having Laney come and see me. I saw her for many years ago. She moved to Florida for a while. Now she's back to California, thankfully. I'm sure she's thankful too. But anyways, I wanted her to come in to see me because she's been a patient for a long time. She has a great story to tell about her life. And anyway, so I just wanted to hand it over to you and just share, if you can share with us, just go back in the past to your life earlier on and just kind of walk us through like events that were significant that you know.
You know, it's really interesting because Dr. Corona had asked me to go back. And, you know, when I was thinking about back, I was thinking about, gosh, maybe first grade or second grade. And they didn't call it ADD back then, but they called it hyperactive. And I remember having such a difficult time sitting down. And I remember there was a test and everybody was sitting down and taking this test. And one of my friends walked by and I got up and walked out to say hi to my friend. And I just remember not being able to control it. And my mom would not put me on medication. But I was an athlete, I was a gymnast, and I was good, and I competed. As time went on, I competed, and those feelings became less and less. And as I got older, I became a wardrobe stylist in television, and it was very fast, and you know, we were always under the gun, and it was a lot of work. I was able to focus, and I remember this therapist back in the day said, "You don't have ADD because you wouldn't be able to do your job." And I found that really interesting because somebody said to me, if it's something you're interested in, you will pay attention. But if it's not, you can't. And they were right. And I was very good at what I did, and I did it for 17 years. And cut to, so as time went on, I got married and I had children and a mortgage, and you know, and everything was going great. I didn't have any kind of strange feelings. But as I got older, I think I was about 42, I remember I started to have these horrible panic attacks. And I couldn't control them. And I went to go see this doctor, and I told him I have panic attacks. And he was giving me these pills, Xanax. And he was giving me more and more and more because I had to self-medicate. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I knew something was wrong. As time went on, my life really fell apart. My career fell apart. My son was a victim of what I didn't know what was wrong at the time. I started shoplifting. I got arrested. I didn't know what was wrong. I got kind of like a high from that shoplifting and from that behavior. I was the golden child for all these years, and so like for me to be getting arrested, and I remember I got arrested and the nurse said to me, "Have you ever been diagnosed with bipolar? Because you don't belong here." And I looked at him and I said, "Yeah, there was a doctor that diagnosed me with bipolar." And I told him to go F himself. I didn't want bipolar, and I thought, oh, I bet they say it to everybody. But I really had it, and as time went on, I got involved in this court system, and I saw this doctor, and he had me on this medication, and it didn't help. I mean, maybe it did a little bit, I don't know.
You remember what medication that was?
I think he had me on Seroquel,
Okay.
but it was just Seroquel.
Right. But do you remember, now you mentioned in your 40s, how about like your 20s and 30s? How did you feel?
My 20s and 30s, I was great.
Okay.
Like, my life was amazing. I was doing a lot of yoga. I was working in television. I had, my daughter was amazing. I was a single mother. I was a great mother to her. I met my husband. We had a great relationship. Like, life was great. So I really believe that, like, I got a late onset of bipolar. And I don't know why or how. Like, I sometimes think, was there a trauma? Was there something? And I've racked my brain over the years.
How about your mom or your dad? Do they have any evidence?
No, but I do believe my father. Yeah, I do believe my father had it.
Right.
And
so that's why you have it. You have it because it's nothing you did. It's not your fault. It's your genetics. So it's you again. One thing I ask patients is, talk about your parents and what parents do you take most after? Which parent do you look more like, act more like? Which one would you say?
I look more like my mother, but when I'm with my father, people always say, "Oh, you look like your dad."
Right.
But I act more like my dad.
Right. And how about dad's parents? Was there anything going on there?
It's hard to say or to get any information out of him. My grandmother was she was wild. I mean, they were wild. My grandmother was beautiful, and she always got married, and she
There's probably
loved
a
Vegas.
lot of drinking going on.
A lot of
probably.
drinking.
Yeah.
But my dad's been sober a long time. Doesn't matter. He still has he has all the traits.
Right. So that's why. You got through that. The second reason, it's not always trauma. Trauma is actually the third most common reason. It's genetics, and I think what's significant about 40 is with women, late 30s in the early 40s, like 38 to 42, right in that range, a lot of times this stuff happens. Why? Because you're starting to see slight hormonal changes happening at that time. You're not, even though you're 10 to 20 years, probably 10 to 15 years away from menopause, you still get, that's what we call like pre-menopause or perimenopause, which can be a year's process of, and some women will say, yeah, I get a little more irregular, I get a little bit of hot flashy. But that's why it kicks in with you at that age, because of you got the two factors combining together. You got the genetics and then the hormones happening. And the fact that back when you were a young kid, the hyperactivity probably it wasn't ADD. But that was probably an early sign of that. But again, it was way too young to know those things,
Right.
And it's possible that they would have given you an ADD medication. Back there, I think they had Ritalin back then, but it might have made you feel worse.
Well, she wouldn't give it to me.
And they wouldn't give it to you, so we never know.
No,
now.
but she couldn't handle me. I mean, I'd walk in the door and she'd be heavily breathing.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. Anyway, move.
Okay. So at that point, I ended up in this court where my lawyer did not want me to do this court. He said, do your 30 days and get out. He said, you don't want to do this. And I was terrified, and I did it. And I'm grateful for a few reasons. I met some great friends, and they brought me to you.
And that was how long ago? About
God, was it 15 years? 12 years?
maybe. I think it was
Somewhere
longer
in
than
there.
that.
15, maybe 15, 16 years.
So I haven't seen you since you just came back. I haven't seen you for like maybe 7, 8 years, I believe.
I
Yeah.
think it was maybe 15 years
Okay.
ago.
Yeah.
I'm thinking.
Yeah, you just saw me again for the first time after many years, and you said basically the psychiatrist in Florida just kept you on the same thing that I had you on.
Well, wait a minute. So
No.
we were in NAMI. That's what happened. We're in NAMI, and
How long ago was this?
this was like 15 years ago. We're in the
Okay.
court,
Oh, okay.
and there was like 3 of them, and they said to me, "You've never heard of Dr. Corona?" And I said, "No." And they said, "Oh, no. You're calling tomorrow. You're calling tomorrow." And I said, "Okay." They're like, because I was not still doing well with this one medication. I just wasn't. And so I called the next day, and I don't remember. I got in pretty quickly, and we sat down and we talked about all the medication, like you're very thorough about what does what, and a lot of times it takes a while to get it all right, but you got me like that, and within a week, I was myself again. I was absolutely myself again. And I always say, he's the man that fixed me. He's the man that fixed me.
That was the first medication, right?
Yeah, you liked what I was on,
right.
But you just added to
Right,
it.
okay, yeah.
And I think you might have changed the dose or something, and you just put it all together. It was like music. And I had to have hope because I just didn't know this. I didn't connect to him. I didn't understand what he was doing. It was just, I wasn't fixed. I wasn't, and I didn't think I ever would be.
Unfortunately, that happens far too often. And,
Yeah.
Far too often. People get stuck, and unfortunately, a lot of doctors don't know how to get people out of that area. They'll do simple things that they don't know. They throw their hands up and.
Well, I didn't suffer from the depression part of it. I was completely manic. So after the medication started to work, I was driving my son to basketball practice, and I'm just like feeling happy and quiet. My son kept looking at me going, "Mom, are you okay? Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine." I'm fine.
Yeah.
Because he had never really seen me just calm and, it had been a while
Right.
since he had seen me that
Just
way.
like, what's wrong with you, right?
He thought there was something wrong with me where I was just doing great. And, I watched his practice, and we went to dinner, and "Are you okay?" "Yeah, I'm fine." And, he was a patient of yours when he was in high school, and then my ex-husband was a patient of yours. So, you fixed my whole family. And, I can't tell you how grateful I am and how blessed that I am. And I've never had to change my meds in all these years. And I'm grateful for that. I've heard that people have to or have had to. I don't know.
It depends on the person. Sometimes we fix things, but then things go off and we have to look at it again. So there's a lot of, over time, a lot of tweaking of things, dosage adjustments, trying to get everything we're looking for this, this is normal. That's not normal. That's someone who's flat, has no emotions. We want people to have emotions, but we don't want it to be out of control where they just, they lose their emotions. So it's keeping it in control, but that's what medications are doing. They're getting that balance there where you still have happy and, you can still be not over the top like mania can get. not deep into depression that can happen if that, because what happens is the highs and then the lows, and then people get into this process where they're just all over the place, and medications just kind of even that all out, and you know, sometimes we need to make adjustments. But in your case, since you've been steady for a while, I think, you know, there's probably, if anything, just minor adjustments, you know, to do, but nothing I don't think super significant.
Yeah, I just feel I'm grateful. I'm really lucky, and so.
Well, I'm glad you had a doctor in Florida that actually, especially, that he seemed to, I guess, say, I'm not going to mess with things if you had success.
Oh no, I tell them, I'm like, I have a man, Dr. Corona, and these are the meds he put me on, and these are the meds that I'm going to stay on. I do take my mental health in like control, because I always say, if there is any changes, I'll go to him, because it's not, I mean, I guess it's that, and this is a terrible thing, it's not terrible, but like, I really truly don't trust anyone else to ever change my meds. So if I would have to fly out here, I would.
No, because we can do phone visits nowadays.
Oh, okay.
And I'm not retiring anytime soon either. I don't. You have to worry about that. So I'm gonna be doing this for many more years.
Good.
So.
You have to, because you're doing good. You're doing so many people.
Well, you know, and I do it because of people like yourself, you know, and I do it because, you know, when I started learning it and seeing the results like you're explaining, I thought, I've got to keep doing this, you know, because being a family doctor originally, I wasn't seeing the same excitement. I wasn't seeing the same results I was seeing here. And I just decided that, you know, this is my passion. I need to do this, you know. And there was no decision there. This is what I'm going to do. And I remember writing a letter to patients explaining, you know, I'm sorry, but this is what my direction on my practice. And unfortunately, I had a lot of upset people, and they were not happy with me. But I had to do what I had to do, you know.
I had no idea you were a family doctor.
Oh, yeah.
Before this.
Yeah, the original, the first 10 years of my practice was being a family doctor. But during the 1990s, I also got very involved in this field. So I was doing kind of both at the same time. And then by the end of, you know, about the year 2000 or so, is when I decided I couldn't do it all anymore. I was just getting way too busy. I had to focus my time on what I love, and I just had to say, okay, I don't have time for everything anymore. I'm one person, you know, and that's what made the decider. That's like, okay, I have enough business. I think I can do this full time now, and I did, you know. So, and that's what led to the books and all that, you know, and so. But I love it, like I said, because of people like yourself, you know, and I can't think of any other area of medicine that I would get the same thrill from helping people, improving their lives. I mean, you know, living better. You know, what's for a doctor? What's a better thrill than that? You know? So. And we don't do this. We don't do this for the money. We don't do this for anything else. But you know, and it sounds corny that we want to help people because everyone says, I want to help people. Well, but it's true. I mean, when you go with what we went through, all the years of schooling, all the training, and it's a lot. To go through all that, you have to really want it, and you have to decide that this is what I want to do to help people. You know, you can make a lot more than we make by going into the financial world, doing the other stuff. A lot of ways to make more than doctors do, but that's not what we do. It's not about that. It's about, you know, it's about what I just said, and about improving people's lives, and so.
And I've watched you. When you get focused, it's like I don't. There's no. I just leave you. I'm just like, don't talk, don't. You get, I mean, it's so, I know, but that's what I see is your passion for it. I see it. It's amazing.
Thanks.
Yeah. It's a wonderful thing. And and it's just, the proof is in the pudding. It's amazing. Thanks. Yeah.
Well, it's great to have you back in California again.
Thank you. Thank you.
Before we close out, anything else you want to share? Or, I mean,
I think I've shared it all. Yeah.
But the important thing out there is people is, have hope. If something's not right, or if stuff like what's happened to her, which by the way is extremely common, because when you get that way, when you're not thinking straight, so getting into crime and stuff is very common. And but that's sometimes when you get the law gets involved, it's like you sober up and like, okay, I got this is not right here. What's happening? You couldn't help it. You were driven into that. And some people, are driven to very destructive habits like gambling and losing a tons of money because they can't help themselves. They can't stop. Yeah. And I keep losing, and I got to win one of these days, and then they're in a debt, and now they're pouring in debt, and just but it's it can drive a lot of bad behaviors, not just crime, but sexual addictions, porn addictions, drug addictions. A lot of people, treat with drugs, with street drugs, instead of the healthy ones that actually help you, So.
Is shoplifting healthy?
No, well, you get away with it.
I never did. I was so bad.
If they don't catch you, sure. So, but
I don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
No.
But it's been great. Thank you for being so honest with us, and I'm sure people are really going to learn from this. That look, it's not. If something that's like this happening, it's not, you can't help it. Don't feel shameful about it, because it's something you have, and you can either live the way you're living and be miserable, or you can feel better. And why not feel better? And you got to realize it's a process. You're not going to go in and say one little thing and everything to get better. It's going to take just like with Laney, it takes a combination to do this, and you got to combine things together. One thing will only do so much, and it'll get people a little bit better. But my goal is to get everyone to the fully better. So anyway, but thanks for coming in. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
So in the case of Helene, so she, again, with bipolar patients, some of them are on traditional antidepressants, SSRIs, which I prescribe, even though I talk them down occasionally, I still prescribe them for some people. They're good. SNRIs are usually better, but not always. Wellbutrin's great, but not always. So in her case, she's not on any of those. She's not on an SSRI, she's not on an SNRI. So she's on a combination of Lamictal. So again, this is a really good antidepressant with bipolar. So it prevents the lows of bipolar depression. So it boosts GABA. But so it's really good for depression. She's on Topamax, which also works on GABA, but that's good. That's good for anxiety. And again, with Topamax, again, the anxiety, but also body pain. It's very well known for headache prevention. It's very well known as not supposed to be a weight loss product, but it is, because if people, sometimes when they have anxiety, it curbs craving for sugars and carbohydrates, especially in the evening time. Or some people say starting at like 4 or 5, 6 p.m. and on. So sometimes I'll slip some Topamax in before that appetite happens, and it really kind of curbs that. And some people then it just takes away that cravings, and it lowers anxiety and helps with pain. So it helps. It's not just for that. And she's on lithium. Now lithium is old school, I call it. It's an old school mood stabilizer. In her case, she's done really well with it. So it doesn't really work the same as these other receptors. It's a different thing that I can't really explain as much on this simple thing. It's a more complex medication, but she's done well with it for many years. But she's that's kept her pretty steady. She still has occasionally intermittent anxiety, but for the most part, she's been really steady. I just saw her back. She had moved away to Florida for several years. I hadn't seen her for a long time. I recently saw her back again and asked her to come in and thankfully, the psychiatrist that she saw in Florida, they just said, she said they just kept me on what you had me on, because everything seemed to be working. The one thing I met is Seroquel. So the one I missed. So we got the Lamictal and Topamax. Then the Seroquel is the one here, and basically is a dopamine antagonist. So it actually slows down dopamine. So it keeps the mind from racing. It helps with sleep at night. So she's on this combination, that with the lithium. And like I said, nothing for these two. The most common things we look at for depression. And so because with certain levels, like with her, tending towards the mania, the problem is with antidepressants, they can be a little bit too stimulating and they can overstimulate the person, and that's why some people just don't do well with it. But preventing depression, how do we do that? Well, again, the Seroquel, the Seroquel, yeah, but the Lamictal especially, that, and this combining these things together. Again, what's she on, like 4 things? So what? That's how much it takes. That's just the way it is. And then trying to minimize the symptomatic medication, trying to minimize sleeping pills, minimize tranquilizers. We try to, if someone's taking a lot of something, then I usually have to rethink like what can I do to prevent that? What can I do so we don't have to keep throwing a Band-Aid on top of it over and over again? And so that's my job. But it's hard to talk people out of that because people like their benzo, they like what they have, and so sometimes it's very difficult for me to try to make that change. And sometimes I have to say, I'm not going to take it away from you, but I want to see if we can start cutting it down. And some people are not happy about that. So sometimes I have to force that a bit and be a little bit forceful about it, but that's just part of clinical life in the office of a doctor, is just this whole give and take with people, coming to an agreement about things, and that takes time. That takes a therapeutic relationship, which we establish over time with people, and I love developing these personal relationships with patients because that's part of the job I really love. So, anyways, it's good to have her back again, and good to see her better.